Hello, folks. Welcome to Walking Digital Corridors, the podcast where we explore the intersection of B2B sales and today's digital buyer. So I'm Alex Abbott, or as some of you might know me as the bearded sales guy. Alongside hosting this podcast, I'm proud to be the co-founder of the social enablement platform Alex by Critical Convo. I'm founder of Sapiro, and I spend most of my time bringing community, method, and technology together to help individuals develop conversations with their audience. But anyway, enough about me. Let's focus on how we can bring more value to your day by learning from some of the best in the business. First off, Mr. Jensen Abbott, one of the best in the business.
Yeah, well, that's quite a big introduction. But no, hi all, Jensen Abbott, senior BDR here at Content.ai. Pleasure to be here today. And I was also going to cheekily add, could say, co-founder of Supero, add to the mix to just make it sound a little bit better. But no, look, all jokes aside, really happy to be here today. Really excited for the guest that we've got on today. So have to be careful I don't kind of leak who we've got on today, but no, I'm really excited. Excited.
Yeah, and on that note, without further ado, onto the real the real best in the business. Not that you're not the best in the business, Jensen, and just another level or two up. Joining us today is a true legend in the world of sales, Mike Bosworth. There we go. I've let the cat out of the bag. Known as the creator of solution selling and customer-centric selling, Mike has transformed how sales professionals connect with their prospects by pioneering the use of storytelling to build trust and credibility. His innovative approach to rifle shot prospecting has made him a sought-after thought leader in precision sales strategy. Today, we're diving into how his timeless principles can be supercharged with modern tools like AI. So welcome, Mr. Mike Bosworth. Great to have you on.
I'm happy to be here, guys. Yeah, it's a subject I like to talk about. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting beat to death by AI now. With every company out there is trying to use AI, and most of them are not. They're certainly not reaching my curiosity with the way they do it. And I remember, I'm pretty old. When I got into the information technology business in 1972 as Xerox Computer Services, one of the principles was you have to have a solid manual system before you automate. Otherwise, you're just speeding up the mess.
Yeah.
And the AI out there right now is speeding up a lot of mess.
It is.
Because you can't just rely on it to figure out what you need to do. You have to be able to direct it precisely. And if you can direct it precisely, it's fantastic. But most people don't know. They don't know how to define a process around their sales process or their discovery process or anything manually. They can't define what they want it to do. And so therefore, there's a lot of mess being speeded up these days.
Yeah. So we're going to come on to AI because I do want to ask you about that before we get to AI, can we just touch on kind of the power of storytelling? Because I know this is
absolutely
very close to your heart. So, you've been a pioneer in using storytelling to transform sales. Can you maybe share the moment or experience that first showed you how powerful stories could be in building trust with prospects?
Well, I'm going to have to first help you understand what it took for me to get what I was missing, because I've always been a sales process guy with solution selling or customer-centric selling. We're teaching them the steps that the buyer goes through when they buy, and how to get public displays of trust, and how to guide them without closing, and a lot of sales process stuff. But when I started solution selling in 1983, my principal objective was to help the bottom 80%. Because back then, when Xerox hired Neil Rackham to come in and figure out why 20% of their salespeople were bringing in 80% of the revenue year after year after year after year. And so my mission, because the top 20%, they sell intuitively, as I did when I was a frontline salesman. I've made my all my classes by figuring out how to codify and teach what I did intuitively, but that was with great difficulty.
Yeah.
But anyway, in 2008, I was still customer-centric selling, and we had a senior consultant from Sales Benchmark Index come in and speak to our group of disciples. And he started off, his front slide was 87/13. And he says, remember the old 80-20 rule? He says, well, it's gotten worse. We just did a survey in 2008 of 1,500 B2B salespeople, and we found out that 13% of the bodies were now producing 87% of the revenue. And it was like I was stabbed in the heart, because I was trying to help the bottom, the average Joes, if you will. And turns out the top salespeople did much better with solution selling. And the reason is, the other principle of basic solution selling, besides trying to help the bottom 80%, was we were trying to teach salespeople to do intelligent discovery. And by intelligent discovery, your discovery process leads the buyer to a vision of using your product.
Yeah.
And the basic principle, and if you had a tumor and you went to a surgeon, a radiologist, or an oncologist, I guarantee you they would all define your problem intelligently around their expertise. The surgeon's going to want to cut it out, the radiologist is going to nuke it, and the oncologist is going to want to poison it.
Yeah. What about the nutritionist?
Oh, I wish we had nutritionists.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big missing thing. So the whole idea, I really should have called solution selling solution discovery, because up until that point, all these technology companies were giving demos. The geeks would invent a new mousetrap, and they get a couple of white papers written, and then they go all trade shows and demo. Can I show you a demo of our material requirements planning system? They're demoing, but when you demo, you show them 100 features, and maybe they can understand 3 to 5 of them.
Yeah.
So you're not doing intelligent discovery. You're doing vomit presentations where you're just vomiting everything on them and forcing the buyer to be smart enough to say, well, those 2 I don't need, but that 3rd one, I might be able to use that. But you're forcing them to figure out how to use it. You're not helping them understand that. So the idea of solution selling was, saying, Jensen, the next time you have that problem, would it help you if you could go to your screen, hit 2 keys, and get the information you need to avoid that bump in the road? Now, we want to empower them to know why they're going to buy something expensive.
Yeah.
And then eventually tag it to business benefit, So this is a long answer, but when I realized that after 30 some years of doing intelligent discovery that the 80-20 rule had gotten worse. I finally had to face up to the fact that the reason it had gotten worse is because the reason the bottom 80% is the bottom 80%. And this just isn't sales. This is all professions: doctors, lawyers, judges, politicians, teachers. And it's really down to building trust and connection. And the top 20% of every profession do it intuitively.
Yeah.
So when the common complaint I got from vice presidents of sales over 20 years of doing solution selling, and I was too arrogant to really take what they took and dig down and do enough discovery. But what they said, 20 different VPs of sales said, Mike, my top 20% love solution selling. And they're selling more than they ever have because they're smart enough to realize that intelligent discovery will help them.
Yeah.
But the bottom 80% quit using it within 2 weeks of the workshop.
Yeah. I remember as sorry to jump in there, Mike, but I remember as a rep myself, more than 10 years ago now, discovery wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't a stage in the sales process.
No, it's not a step. Yeah, it's a function and the way you do discovery. But here is the issue. The bottom 80%, they all know deep in their gut that their whole life, they've always struggled with meeting new people, connecting with new people, building trust with new people. That it's not a natural talent for them. And so the reason the bottom 80% were abandoning solution selling after 2 weeks was, since they didn't know how to connect intuitively, they took their discovery questions out prematurely before the buyer trusted them enough to allow them to do discovery.
Yeah.
Right. And so pretty soon, since they jump right into their discovery process, you'd see the buyer going, whoa, you don't know me good enough to ask me all those questions.
Yeah.
And they were pushing them away, even though there were great discovery questions written by their product experts in their company, because we don't want to sell customers features that our product won't do. So we were trying to shape their conversations around what the product would do, but they couldn't get that far because the discovery, since they went straight to the discovery, it was ruining it. So I had to figure out a way to get buyers of the bottom 80% to give up their discovery resistance and allow this salesperson to really learn about them.
Yeah.
And that was story. And that's how we figured out how storytelling is something that anybody can learn. Third graders can learn it. And it's an idea of reading your buyer, knowing where you are, knowing where they are, taking them on a little journey, knowing where the curves are, because you're telling a story they don't. And so from 2008 on, I switched off a sales process and on to teach regular people how to build, tell, and tend stories of other people.
Yeah, brilliant. Because the emotional intelligence that the top performers have, they'll naturally kind of understand whether or not they've earned enough credits before they.
You're exactly right. And the top 20%, they keep their discovery questions in their pocket until the buyer has demonstrated that they trust them and that they're connected with them. Then they can take the questions out.
Yeah. And then the 80% that perhaps don't have that EQ, that emotional intelligence, teach them how to tell stories that build rapport.
Before, and keep their discovery questions in their pocket until this stranger is demonstrating to you that their discovery resistance has dropped, and they now are going to allow you to do discovery with them.
Yeah, 100%. Now, this is where AI is coming in for me, because AI is a great tool. And as you said rightfully earlier on, most people haven't yet figured out how to use it effectively, how to prompt the AI effectively. So when I think about storytelling and teaching salespeople how to build stories, there's a risk that they build the stories that perhaps don't come across as authentic. So
you're exactly right, because the biggest weakness of AI is like the bottom 80% of humanity. Even though it's really smart, their EQ sucks.
Yeah.
AI systems don't have EQ. And the top people in all professions, the reason they're top is they have EQ.
Mm.
And they're using it and combining it with all other professional training they've had.
Yeah. Are there any frameworks, particular storytelling frameworks that you could share with our viewers that they could perhaps ask AI about to help them create their story?
Well, I would be happy to share with you after this broadcast the Story Seekers storyboard.
Mm-hmm.
When we started building we had to create a way to teach humans how to build, tell, and tell stories.
Mm.
And in doing that, we said, well, who are the best storytellers? And the best storytellers we could find in Southern California are Hollywood screenwriters, right? The only thing is, a Hollywood a movie maker, he's got 90 to 120 minutes to tell his story. Yeah. And when you're a strange salesperson, you've got 60 seconds.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have a model which has got a setting, a struggle, an aha moment, the business results, and the why. So philosophically, those, and we teach people to build the stories where it's relatable, but you still have to get permission. You've heard about permission marketing, right?
Yeah.
Well, another big lesson with stories is, even if your story is fabulous and 60 seconds long, you can't march up to a stranger and start telling a story without getting permission to tell that story. And for salespeople, since we're teaching them to seek out and find business professionals that, based on what their job is, how they're measured, what industry they're in and stuff, to seek out the people who should be looking for your new, better mousetrap.
Yeah. And you don't have to say, I'm about to tell you the story, but you could say, hey, that reminds me of.
Well, an even better way we found, when I was 28 years old, my company, Xerox Computer Services, showed me how to cold call. And back then, cold calling was in person. Now, when we get into AI does have the ability to take a hated function away from salespeople, which is cold calling. If you've got some AI technical expertise in your organization, we can teach that AI how to dramatically help salespeople fill their pipelines with qualified people who should be looking.
Okay.
But I still want you to understand the power of story. Back in 1972, when Xerox Computer Services hired me, we were the first cloud computing. And they had a job that was so terrible, nobody else wanted it. So I was the first person out of college, and I was on the help desk. So for the first year, we had 50 customers in LA hooked to our central computer, and we were doing their payroll and their benefits and their inventory and their journal entries and their financials and all that. And now all these functional departments in these businesses are using departmental dumb terminals. And they're interacting in real time with this system. And guess what they do when it doesn't meet their expectation? It can't find their part number. It doesn't know who they are. They call the help desk. And then so that was my life. But because of that, and I didn't even know, I was learning how each of those functional people do their job on my computer system. Yeah. So whether it was accounts payable or cash management or inventory, whatever, I knew how they could use my product to do their job far better than they ever could before.
Yeah.
Right. So now when they asked me to go into sales when I'm 28 years old, I said no and hell no. The no came from, as a support person, those dang salespeople were promising, lowballing prices and telling customers that our product would do stuff it wouldn't do. And so as a support person, I'm cleaning up the mess, right? I'm having to reset the expectations and say, I know you're disappointed, but look at, you still lowered your inventory by $3 million and a 25% carrying cost. You're way ahead. That was my job.
Yeah.
So now I'm going into sales. They said, well, Mike, the only thing you don't know how to do is cold call. So one of my bosses showed me. Back then we'd walk into a lobby. But what lobby did we walk into? And this is where AI is going to help in the present day. Back then, since our primary edge in the marketplace was a first generation real-time material requirements planning system, where a manufacturing company, even if they had 50,000 parts, they could replan their whole production on our computer system overnight. This was hugely innovative in 1974. But everybody who joined Xerox Computer Services back then had to go to product school. And basically, you couldn't be allowed out on the street to sell, to support, to demo, or whatever until you could demo all the key products.
Yeah.
Right. So now, all those salespeople that my company hired directly into sales, 98% of them were former IBMers, because our CEO was a former IBMer. And he happened to be Ross Perot's boss at IBM. And so all those guys were former IBM star salespeople, mid-30s to mid-40s. I'm 28 years old, never sold anything, but I had a huge advantage because I knew how our customers could use my product to do their job better. All those other salespeople, the only thing they knew how to do was demo.
Yeah.
So they'd go out in a cold call and say, hey, Jensen, can I give you a demonstration of our material requirements planning system? And I'm going to show you 100 things, and maybe you can relate to 3 of them.
Yeah.
Pray and pray, right?
Yeah.
That's all they could do. I went out, I'd go up to the receptionist and say, my name's Mike Bosworth, and I'm with Xerox Computer Services, and I want to talk to your materials manager. Now, a couple of interesting things. One, back then, no salespeople ever called on materials managers. They were in the bowels of manufacturing. And, I just lost it. And back then, if you were a manufacturing manager, executive, whether you're in production control, engineering, material control, the only way you could learn about new technology for manufacturing back then was to see salespeople.
Yeah. Not
There
anymore.
was no internet. You had to let the IBM guy come in and show you what he's doing, and the Univex. So seeing salespeople. So I'm just telling you this because 80% of the time on those cold calls, the materials manager would come out 2 minutes later. One, curiosity, because nobody ever calls on them. And two, they always want to know what cool things all these high-tech companies are working on in the future. So high level of curiosity. And they'd come out to the lobby, and as soon as they saw me, they'd go like this.
Looking at their watch.
I'm 28, he's 48. And as soon as he sees the age difference, he's thinking, what? Hey, now I got to be nice to this guy for the next 10 minutes before I can give him the boot. But clearly, this guy's too green and young to know anything about my job. Right?
Yeah. Okay,
now I used a story to fix that in 60 seconds. Okay, I needed to set the stage. So here's how the story worked. I'd confirm his job title. I'd say, so you're the materials manager here, and they'd say yes. And I'd say, can I share a quick story with you about another materials manager less than a mile from here that I've been working with for the last 18 months?
Yes, you may.
Guess how many times in a year that story ever got turned down?
I bet it was 0.
0. Because every business professional has pure curiosity.
Yeah.
They want to know what materials managers are doing in their competitors.
Yeah.
Right. So he'd give me permission to tell the story. And then I said, I give him the setting. I met this guy 18 months ago and at Apex and stuff. And then the struggle, I found out how tough his job was. Every morning when he came into work, his VP of finance was mad at him because he was carrying too much inventory, and his VP of manufacturing was mad at him because their past due shipments were 28%. That's the struggle. So now he knows that I understand how hard his job is. Yeah. And then 18 months ago, when that materials manager, Ed Blackman, discovered that Xerox Computer Services now has created technology where an assembly manufacturing company with 50,000 parts can replan their entire production overnight. It used to be 3 weeks at the end of a quarter.
Nice.
So 18 months ago, when Ed discovered that Xerox now had this new offering, he raised his hand. We had no customers. We had no proof, but he was smart enough to see what we were doing really made sense. And he said, I'll be your guinea pig. I want to be your first customer. That was 18 months ago. Yeah. And here we are today. 18 months ago, his inventory was 8 million. Now it's 2.7. His past due backlog 18 months ago was 28%. Now it's 3%. But enough about me. What's going on here? So I could tell that story in 60 seconds. Yeah. No other salesman in my company could tell that story. I did it intuitively based on my personal experience helping that other guy miraculously turn his life around. Yeah. And so in my first 5 months in sales, I sold more than anybody in the history of the company sold in a full year.
Nice.
Because I could go out and that pure curiosity, that one story filled my pipeline.
Yeah. Is this what you've based? Let's switch gears a little bit. Is this what you've based precision prospecting on? Is this, when you and I spoke in preparation for this podcast, and you were talking to me about rifle shot prospecting. Can you tell us a bit more about that concept?
Well, I was doing it back then because all of the territory salespeople, we were all B2B, and we were all charged whatever area of the country we were all tasked with taking our new product offering out to assembly manufacturing companies of a certain SIC code, and you really want to talk to the materials manager in those businesses. And what Xerox did is we had an industry marketing group, and they bought every Hunter salesperson their own copy of the manufacturer's directory. And the manufacturer's directory back then, it was like a phone book. It had all the manufacturing companies by SIC code, how much they sell, the names of their executives. Right? And then what they do, when they handed me that manufacturer's directory, which is this thick, they said, Mike, we've already highlighted the 49 highest probability fits for what we do in your territory. So before you cold call anybody else, I want you to cold call those 49 businesses. Well, I had my pipeline filled with the first 4. My life changed. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the story eliminated the buyer's discovery resistance of, you don't know me well enough to ask me all those questions. You're too young to know how hard my job is. All the tapes the buyer were playing in their head. But if I hadn't asked permission to tell the story, never would have worked.
Yeah.
So in each case, I confirmed their job title. So you're the materials manager. Can I share a quick story with you about another materials manager less than a mile from here I've been working with for 18 months?
Yeah, nice. And this is this concept, I'm assuming, works incredibly well cold calling with the phone.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So now my idea with AI, have you ever made the mistake of inquiring about a product on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything as a buyer? And all of a sudden now all your emails and all your texts, they're bombarding you with the same product by other companies.
Yeah.
How do you think they got to do that so fast? AI. They're using AI to scrape all the transactions out there, looking for people who are buying this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing.
Yeah. But but they still don't have trust.
No, they do not have trust.
Yeah.
But what are the odds that you're going to buy that product because you've already investigated the same product? But the way you build the trust, I would, if I were a VP of sales, I'd hire me an AI IT guy who could go out and find all those companies in the manufacturer's directory that Xerox gave me back in 1974. Now with AI, it could go find me those 49 companies like that should be looking. I don't need to wade through any of those things at all, because all I tell the AI, the SIC code, the job title, size of business, number of employees, give it all the parameters, and it'll go scrape them and find them for me. Yeah. That's the rifle shot. Okay, so now, Jensen, you're a materials manager in some manufacturing company out there, and you got, could be a text, could be an email. It said, Jensen, our records show that you're the materials manager of the company. Would you be interested in seeing a 60-second video of another materials manager less than a mile from your business?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? It's pure curiosity, right? So now, when he opens that up, it's Mike Bosworth, the salesman he will eventually be asked to buy from, telling him the story. And the reason I think that's so beautiful is because we can teach the salespeople to build the customer hero stories and practice telling them in 60 seconds, heavy on the emotion, heavy on the EQ, But at the end of the 60 seconds, we give them away. If you'd like to learn more, hit that key and we'll get on Calendly and schedule a 15-minute conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, we're coming towards the end, Mike. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Before you go, does this make sense to you, Jensen? Because this is our first time.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense, and I'm here actually taking notes. That's what I've been doing. I've got my pen. I'm taking notes, and actually, it's the more that you're talking, the more actually I can see myself doing these certain things and actually implementing them, and then I can actually see where this would actually help my probability of success, right? And actually where it would eliminate
rifle shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you're, just for context, Mike, Jensen's a senior BDR within a tech company, a content management solution provider, and he was recently promoted, so he's doing something right. But his aspiration is to move into an account executive sales role.
And then onto a sales director, then one day hopefully VP of sales, right? But
most of the successful people I've known over the years, they end up, and they're usually the top 20% high EQ people. They figure out a better way to do it, and then the company says to them, "Oh, Jensen, I like the way you're doing that. I want you to get up in front of all the other salesmen in the company this weekend and tell them what you're doing." That's what they started coming to me, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I started doing sales training, because they came to me and said, "You're selling so much more than anybody else. We want you to figure out what you're doing and make it teachable." The hardest thing for me is I was doing it intuitively at the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was having that conversation with someone this week about how most salespeople find it hard to explain exactly what they do to be successful, because it just comes naturally.
Well, and again, so many technology companies in particular ruin the selling and the buying process by pounding all those features into the minds of the salespeople and the customers.
Yeah, indeed.
So question back to you then, and for the audience, if it's not features, then they should be pumping into the salespeople. Obviously, me knowing the answer, but hearing it from you, what would that be for those to be pumping into the salespeople to armor them for those conversations?
Well, because we are building and teaching them how to tell pure stories. So the story I told intuitively in the lobby when I was cold calling was about a specific man I knew very well. I've been working with him for 18 months. I could tell his story very easily. Here's where he was 18 months ago. This guy was mad at him. This guy was mad at him. And I could take him through that story. And when I said enough about me, what's going on here? You know what they virtually all said?
What's that?
You want to come in and look around?
Yeah.
That tells me their discovery resistance just went away, because they have hope that now there's a solution to their most miserable problem of shortages, material shortages. And now for the first time, they have hope. Hope is emotional.
Yeah.
When they go, God, I didn't think this young guy knew anything, but he understands how hard my job is. And he's helped one of my peers with some dramatic KPIs.
Yeah. So,
but AI can't invent that story.
No.
That story has to be invented by a human being. Who's really good at communicating. And then we can have AI go out and find the people who'd like to hear that story. And offer them the ability to hear that story. And if they say yes, at the end of it, give them an option for a 15-minute Calendly appointment. And we got a buy cycle started.
But the salesperson has to practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the worst. Salespeople, the two things they hate the most both start with P: prospecting and practice. They hate it. They hate it. Most all other professions. If you're a football player or a basketball player, you practice all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Salespeople, they don't like to practice. They want to wing it. They want to go out there and use their magic.
Yeah, indeed. So, what do you think the next 12 to 24 months hold for storytelling and targeted prospecting in a world increasingly driven by or influenced by technology?
Well, it's going to be difficult because 90% plus of the people out there have no clue about why people with EQ sell more than people who don't have EQ. And they just don't understand how humans buy and trust and connect. And so, to me, it's via the power of story. So we through three-day workshops, and we teach them how to build a story, tell a customer hero story, tell their personal story of struggle, and tell the story of the founder of their company. Because when you're selling technology, you want a high EQ story about your founder too.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, they're bonding with a human being, a salesperson. Then in the middle of the sales cycle, when you start meeting other people and stuff, then they want to really trust this human being who's my seller, not just his story about my peer. And then late in most sales cycles, they say, well, okay, I feel good about my salesperson. He seems to understand my problem. I like his product, but boy, I don't know if their company keeps their promises to their customers.
Yeah.
And so the third story is the company hero story. And if you got one about a founder and how the people, we've had great stories where everybody came in on the weekend to get them up and running, company stories about how the company is focused on your success too.
Yeah. Brilliant. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been very insightful. Thank you, Jensen. Thank you to our audience. And until next time, I wish you a wonderful week and enjoy the weekend.